Now we're on the
I'm
record.
hearing just what I'm hearing myself come back a little bit on your end. Do you hear that?
I don't hear it.
Okay. All right.
Um, I can try my headset again and see if that helps. But right
No,
now I
no,
don't hear
no.
any echo.
Okay.
Jilly says she hears a little bit of an echo. On which side,
It's
Jilly? Hello, everybody. This is Debra, and you're on the Marketing Blab with Debra. And I'm the author of Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget and DebraJason.com. And I'm thrilled to be here today. I am thrilled because one of the things that I love about social networking is connection. And today's guest is somebody that reached out to me on Facebook. At the time, I did not know him, but we had several connections in common. And so I accepted the friend request. And since then, he's been awesome. And he and his wife both have become friends. And now I get to see him here live in person. So I want you all to give him a lot of props and welcome my guest, Darrin Bentley, with the Big Wig Nation podcast. Thank you, Darrin, for being here. And thanks for your patience with the technical glitches.
Oh, listen, that's what makes this all fun, right? Because it's live, it's interactive, and then you're going to see stuff like this happen. So it's all good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Seriously.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. And I know we have people that are here. For Gili, it's evening. For me, it's just before noon. For you, it's afternoon. So that's one of the beautiful things about being connected far and wide and having this awesome technology. It has its moments. And I am not a techno geek. So thank you to Mike Baltus, who came on and helped us earlier with our technical glitches. Darrin, you have the Big Wig Nation podcast. And there on your website, I want to read something that you wrote there, which is about one of your rules. And you said one of your rules is to have total transparency so that each conversation has to be real so that people get to know the person and not the persona. So I'd like to ask you, what do you want people to know today who don't know you? Who is Darrin Bentley?
Oh man, you're hitting me now. It's so funny. I'm so used to asking that question of, well, as you know, pretty much everybody that I speak with. When I set out to do the show, that was like it was really a part of like my mission statement, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts where I hear like kind of people going through the motions a little bit, and sometimes it sounds a little bit mechanical. So for me, that was a big part of when I was putting this together. I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to be open. I wanted it to be honest. And sometimes, those conversations are going to get uncomfortable. I mean, I've been in conversations that have been very uncomfortable, but I just feel like that's something that it just had to be for me. And, that's kind of why I set out with this show to do exactly that. I wanted it to be that way. As far as myself, well, I worked on Wall Street for a lot of years. I worked at a job that I wasn't very happy with. I wasn't fulfilled inside. I made some pretty good money, but for the last couple of years, I was like kind of dead, just going to a job to collect a paycheck. And yeah, I there was an outsourcing that happened, and I had a great chance to get an even better position, and I chose to kind of take a leap of faith. I have a great supportive wife, Sharon. I love you. You're on here right now with us. And she was right behind me, and she said, like whatever it is that we're going to do, we'll figure it out, but you can't take another job and just do the same thing. So after some reinvention time, I came up with the idea for the podcast, and I've been having a blast. I really am. I'm blessed to connect with some amazing people like yourself. And I've had some great people on the show and had some amazing conversations, and I'm loving what I do. So it's great stuff.
Well, I have questions about all those things that you just mentioned, but you said, that you were on Wall Street and you had the opportunity to do something more in that position, but you chose to leave and start Big Wig. What was the inspiration for Big Wig Nation?
Well, that wasn't the first thing that I thought
Okay.
about. Like when I decided that I was not going to do that job anymore, that I couldn't take it, and that I had to refuse it. I turned it down. I said, okay, I'm going to take some time to figure things out. I've always been an entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurship, just strategies and the meat and potatoes of how things work, marketing wise, and things like that. Um, and I've been told by a lot of people that like I have a pretty decent voice. So I love to have conversations with people, and I love to connect with people. And I started thinking like, yeah, man, maybe I could do this. This was a couple of months after I started thinking about this. I was like, yeah, I could talk to amazing people. I could meet some great people and create some great relationships. And that's where the idea kind of came from. Just have some amazing experts come on the show, share their inspirational stories and journeys, and hopefully, inspire and encourage other people to maybe take a leap of faith, just like I did. So that's kind of where the idea came from.
Well, that brings me to, I was listening, I think it was Darrin Hardy, your podcast with him, and you used the word a wantrepreneur.
Yes, wantrepreneur. Yeah.
Did you come up with that phrase? I thought that was fabulous because there probably are quite a few people out there or people listening today that want that kind of lifestyle.
No, there are entrepreneurs. There are people. I just got to move this phone. I'm sorry. Just bear with me 1 second.
No problem.
Just toss my phone on the bed over there. I am in my bedroom, by the way. This is where like I have my little studio caddy corner next to another desk over there. But yeah, that was the thing. It's like I know I love entrepreneurship. I'm just like I'm a strategist. Like I said, I love like finding out how things work and putting things together and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are in love with the idea of being an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship, but for some reason something's holding them back. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Much like so many people, me included. So yeah, that's the thing. There are so many people out there that want to do something, but they just don't know what, and it could be fear or it could be something that's stopping them. So is a big part of like my message with the show is, yeah, we're going to explore people's journeys. We're going to have great people on sharing some tactics and strategies and things that you could apply in your life and in your business. But I didn't want to paint the picture that a lot of people out there paint of the entrepreneur lifestyle. You see entrepreneurs and like, you see somebody laying on the beach with a laptop, and that's crap. That's bullshit, pardon my language there. But it's just like, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine, because the truth is, as an entrepreneur, when you are trying to do something that you believe in, something that you really love, you're going to get a lot of resistance. You're going to get people that they're going to put you down. You're going to get naysayers, people who are just telling you like, what the hell are you doing? Because you're doing something different, something that they don't understand. And there's a lot of ups and downs. I mean, being an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you know this, Debra, it can be extremely painful. There's a lot of ups and downs. One day when things are going great, you're feeling amazing. And then the next day, things are not going so good. And it's one thing after another. And, you start to doubt yourself. You start to question yourself. And that's kind of what I want to put out there. So show people that what they're feeling is normal, what they're going through is normal, and it's going to take a lot of hard work. This stuff is not easy, but it's possible. That's the thing too. I want to let people know that it is possible.
Well, and I love what you say, whether we use the word genuine or authentic or real, but yes, I've had, and I know you have, because you share it, fairly openly on Facebook, days where you just, hit rock bottom. And I've had those days, and I've had those days where I think I'm over it. I'm going to give up. But I think that's some quality or a value that is in entrepreneurs, that you don't give up. And you realize there are peaks and there are valleys, and some days are easier than others. And I really appreciate when you share that and let yourself be vulnerable. Now, I personally, I really don't even call myself an entrepreneur. I focus more on solopreneur
Okay.
because I think of an entrepreneur, I think of like a Bill Gates or maybe a Darren Hardy or, a Steve Jobs that really built these empires. Um, and I don't know what your goal is. Maybe you'll share that with us. But my goal in my business when I started in 1989 was not to build an empire. It was more to just have my own business, create my own lifestyle, be my own boss. Is that what it's like for you, or are your goals or dreams bigger?
Um, a big part of why I kind of started the podcast to begin with was really, uh, I just like the book Think and Grow Rich has always resonated with me. It's a very powerful book. It meant a lot to me when I read it. And, the idea of creating that type of environment, like surrounding yourself with, almost like this mastermind, learning from amazing people, but sharing that and creating value in the world and making an impact. So that's a big part of what I want to do with the podcast. I really want to reach as many people as possible. And I love when somebody writes me an email or sends me a message and tells me that something that I said or something that a guest on my show said really resonated with them
Yeah.
and in some way changed their life, affected them deeply. To me, like that, it's, that's where it's at. It's not about like, obviously we have a business, we're all in business to make money, that goes without saying. But to me, that's the biggest part of what really drives me. So
Mhm.
ideally, I would love to reach as many people with this and affect as many people as possible. So do I have anything in terms of like a concrete plan on how I'm going to do that and how big I want to grow that? Not right now. Anyway, I mean, I have ideas short-term growth, but yeah, for the future, I don't really know. I can't really give you anything too specific on that.
Well,
You
that's
know?
cool. And actually, Sharon just typed in the comment section, that entrepreneurship is hard work, but very rewarding. And I think that's what you were just saying is when you get that feedback that you've impacted somebody, that you've had an effect on somebody's life and it really helped them with something.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that feeling. I think it's just, wonderful. I mean, my goal is to inspire and to educate, but also to empower people. And I
Yes.
think that's what you're doing is empowering them so that when they listen to a podcast of yours with, and you've had amazing guests from Darren Hardy to Guy Kawasaki to Jack Canfield, Hal Enrod, all these people, how has that helped you build a community? I'm sure now you have a following of people that subscribe to the Big Wig Nation podcast. Um, is it,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Like that's another thing too. It's like, okay, I kind of knew like some of the people that I wanted to talk to, some of the people I wanted to have on the show. When I envisioned the show, I knew I wanted to connect with certain people and have them on as guests. And I've been blessed and very fortunate to be able to land some amazing guests, like some of the folks that you said. Um, that's the thing. It's like with a podcast, it's like I didn't put this together to say, okay, I'm just going to like get a bunch of big name people on the show and then have them, share my stuff with their audience. And that's
Mhm.
how it's going to grow. I want people to know me. I want people to appreciate what I'm trying to do. And hopefully that I'm putting out something that resonates with them. But when you are, on the flip side, when you are talking to amazing people like that, who do like what you're doing, because I've, some of the people I've gotten on the show, like I've forged some amazing friendships and relationships with, when they are sharing those conversations, by default, people are going to find me that normally wouldn't have. And if they like me and they like, other episodes, they're going to, continue to follow me and be a fan of the show. So yeah, it's been a great thing having some amazing people on it. I mean, obviously that has helped grow my community quite a bit.
What was your very first podcast like? Were you afraid? Were you worried? Or did you just say, I'm going to do this and go for it?
Well, I knew that I was going to do it, and regardless of what happened, I knew that I was going for it, so I didn't care. I just said I'm going to work through it. Excuse me. And I have like by my desk here, I have, something that says "Do the uncomfortable" hanging up. Do the uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. I feel like when we're not uncomfortable in some way, maybe we're not doing the right thing, or maybe we should push to do something that makes us feel uncomfortable. So some of the first shows sucked really bad. They were terrible. I feel anyway. But the thing is, it's like you get through it, and every single time that I had somebody on the show that I got through and I thought like, wow, this is terrible. I was stuttering and stammering like an idiot, and I just sounded like a moron, and I wanted to ask this, but I got nervous or whatever. Everyone got a little bit better. So each episode, like I started, like, I could say, oh, all right, I know, like when I listen to it back and I'm editing, I'm saying, all right, I know where I screwed up here. So like everything else, it's just practice. It's just like, honing your craft and just doing it. And the more you do it, the, better you get at it. I think I'm just starting to get just like this much good, I'm just getting a little bit better, but
this much after how many episodes?
Yes, exactly. I'm up to, I think, 66 now, but I'm getting a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. And at least from the feedback that I hear, I think people are not thinking that, I'm horrible. So far, so good.
As somebody who has listened, I would say, no, you're not horrible. And one of the things that I've appreciated is also not just your own desire to be real and vulnerable and genuine, but your guests as well. Some of them get, kind of down and dirty, and they just go, it's sort of like the wake up call for people listening going, hey, it's not all about being on the beach. It is hard work. And I think it's being real with people just to let them know, yeah, you can have this great lifestyle as an entrepreneur, but don't just think that, oh, who was it? You were talking about the law of attraction, and we had a law of attraction person here. She had to leave. It was Terry. But, it's not just about visualize it in my head and it will come.
Right.
There is a doing this.
Yes, there's action. Action is the key part to anything, and that's the thing. I know Darrin went on, when you listen to that, I'm assuming you were thinking about Darrin Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, big pet peeve of his. And I love The Secret, but I kind of got, I understand how it all works, like with manifesting. I mean, I just get that without action, that movie was a little bit, even though the movie didn't want to, they were very smart in the way they marketed the movie. Let's put it that way. I mean, sitting on your couch, hoping for checks to show up in your mailbox, it doesn't work that way. But no, it's that was a great episode, one of my favorites. And I want to just talk for a second about vulnerability, right? Because that's the thing. It's like I have this podcast and I want to, affect people. I want to, touch people, maybe make them think, maybe question, because that's a good place to be in, I think, when you're unsure. But from a vulnerability standpoint, even like on Facebook, I'm just a very open guy, sometimes to a fault. Sometimes my wife is like, did you really need to say that? And I'm like, yeah, I needed to say that. I needed to, it's just the way that I have always been. So even like when you're opening up, just writing something on Facebook, the power that we have with our words to impact people and touch people. And, I mean, that's the thing. I think sometimes people forget about that. Like, they might look at somebody who's like a big deal out there and think like, wow, I wish that I could do something like that. Or, this guy's words are so encouraging, or this gal's words are so encouraging. Our words have massive power. So, it could be a Facebook post. It could be anything that we're doing out there. And we could literally affect people on the other side of the world.
Well, and that's true. It doesn't take much. I think there is a filter for some people, about what to share or what not to share. Sure. I don't ever really talk about not ever. I don't talk about politics. And if people post about politics, I don't really respond to it. But you said something about, the vulnerability. I think there is something to learn when you see other people showing their fear or their struggles or their pain, especially in business, because I think it is easy to look and say, oh, wow, look at Darrin. He's got this Big Wig Nation podcast. That's amazing. Every day must be amazing for him. And it just shows that, hey, I'm human. I have my days that are not so amazing. And I think it's true probably for anybody in life. There's that saying, the grass always looks greener.
Yeah.
You can
Absolutely.
look at someone else's life and go, oh, I want that life. But you don't know what's going on for them behind closed doors, so to speak.
Well, I think a part of the problem is a lot of people will look at folks like that, and they're just seeing the success. They're seeing, what they are portraying themselves as. They're not seeing what it took to get to that place. They're not seeing all the crap, all the hell that they fought through. And I don't want to ever make my show like this depressing thing where I'm focusing only on pain. But I think that's a big part of it. And I think that people need to understand that there's going to be pain. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be trials and tribulations. Things you're going to want to give up. Sometimes you're going to lay on the floor and you're going to cry. But these things are normal. If you're not feeling that, then there's a problem. And, talking about, again, vulnerability, and this is a thing that I feel very connected to. I had an incredible interview yesterday with Clayton Morris. I don't know if any of you guys know Clayton Morris. He's big news correspondent on Fox and Friends. Great guy. And here's a guy that was doing, he's a very successful guy. The guy is, speaking with extremely successful people. He's talking to an audience of over 2 million people. And he was teaching people how to build legacy wealth through real estate. So great stuff. But he recently came to this epiphany. He's a big, successful guy making a lot of money, helping people and stuff. But he felt that he was living his life was a lie. This didn't resonate with him. It didn't feel good to him. And we had an amazing conversation, and he just really opened up and talked about that, and talked about what it is that he wants to do, and where he sees his life. He had kind of like, I don't want to call it a breakdown. I'm going to call it a breakthrough. It was really, really powerful stuff. So I look forward to sharing that episode in a couple of weeks. It was great stuff.
Well, I look forward to that. Talking about building community, part of that, it sounds like with your guests and people who listen, or even being on a Blab, is really building intimate connections.
Yes, absolutely.
Connections that I don't know how I might have or would have met you otherwise. And I look forward to the day we actually meet in person.
And we will. We will.
That's the beauty of building communities, is having those connections that feel more personal, that you really start to feel like you get to know somebody. And it just makes it something that a lot more people, I think, value, instead of, I think you said early on today, about doing that sort of standard, here's my 5 questions, here's what I'm going to ask you. It's going to be the same for every guest. Instead, I have some notes today about what to talk about, but it's not the same questions I ask every week when I have a guest on the show.
Right.
It's just the way to go, talk about vulnerability, talk about connections. But I do want to ask you, because you have had such big name people, is how have you connected with them, or have they reached out to you? How have you managed to get some of these people to be your guest on your podcast?
Well, it's funny. In the beginning, obviously, it was a little bit of a struggle because I wasn't proven in the market. Nobody knew who the hell I was. So I had to kind of try to be as strategic as I possibly could. But the thing is, and I've talked about this in similar other interviews, for me, a big part of my success with getting connecting with such amazing people, really it starts with my belief. And I know that that might sound kind of cliche, but when I was creating these emails and messages that I would be sending to people, asking them to come on my show, I literally I felt that they were going to do it. I felt them saying yes. I actually saw myself having the conversation with them before I even hit send on the email. I know it sounds a little crazy, I think, maybe to some people, but that's how sure I was. And I've had, I've been blessed to get a hell of a lot more yeses than nos. So I think another big part of like my strategy in getting people is really trying to, in some way, offer some kind of value. So like letting people know, we talk about, you mentioned intimate connections, letting people know that I'm not just looking to get a person on my podcast, to give me value or give my audience value. I want to try to do something for you as well. You have a book, you have a program. I want to make this about you as well. I want to show you that I do value you as a person, as a human being. And I want to try to help you maybe sell some books, maybe reach a new audience that, you don't know or you're not connected with. So, it's all about, of course, offering value and value for value. Absolutely.
So for those people who are listening, I just want to remind you that you're on the Marketing Blab with Debra. And my guest today is Darrin Bentley. Don't forget to tell the little bird. There's a little blue button that you can share the news and tweet it out. And don't forget to give props. The little two hands in the bottom corner is your way of showing appreciation. And what I say is applause for whatever my guest or myself are saying. So I appreciate that. And I'm talking with Darrin Bentley. I'm going to open up the lines for questions in a little bit. But Darrin, for those people who are listening and that want to do a podcast, what would be, do you have one or two or three tips that come to mind right away if it's something they're thinking about, but they just don't know how to take the step forward or are afraid to take that step forward?
Well, when I originally decided that I was going to launch my podcast, I think now it's so funny. I'm kind of drawing a blank a little bit, but I think my original release date, my launch date was in April. I think it was April. Yeah. And maybe it was even March. I believe it was April. But anyway, I wanted to make it great. I wanted to make it a good show, and I wanted to, I was putting my heart and soul into it. I wanted to make it great. And that is such a problem that I think a lot of us suffer with. We get that, analysis paralysis. We want to make it perfect. We want to create this amazing thing that, our standards are just way, way too high. And the bottom line is just launch it. So I think if there's anybody that is thinking about, putting together a podcast, creating a podcast, the first thing you want to do is just don't procrastinate on it. It's very easy to, put all the pieces in place. It really just comes down to fear. That's what it really is. It's fear, and then it's perfectionism. You're going to sit there and you're going to tell yourself a million reasons. You're going to talk yourself out of it. Tell yourself a million reasons why you shouldn't be doing it tomorrow or why you shouldn't do it just yet. By the time I finally launched my podcast, it was July. It was mid-July. So I didn't just have a few weeks. This was a couple of months, and it was all me. So when I look back, that is the biggest thing that I remember as if I could advise anyone, if I could give anyone any kind of advice, it would be just launch it, put it out there. I mean, when I put it out, I had lots of mistakes. And it doesn't matter because you're always going to have mistakes, and then you fix those mistakes, but you can't fix mistakes if you don't have something out there. So just do it. I know it sounded all corny and cliche, but just do it.
Well, I want to interject something.
Happy late. Thank you for that, Nate.
You posted a link the other day to Pat Flynn and his presentation at the podcast movement. And he said his very first podcast, I think, was in 2008. And he hated what he did. And it was probably, I think he said over a year later that he actually launched his podcast because of that. So like you said,
By the way, I encourage anybody, who is listening right now, to check out Pat Flynn's podcast movement keynote. It's posted on my Facebook page. If you're not connected with me, connect with me on Facebook. It's great. Nate knows I'm thinking here. That really, I just love Pat Flynn. It's hard not to love the guy, seriously. And his keynote really was inspiring. It moved me to tears. It really did. I just think that he's an amazing guy, an amazing businessman, entrepreneur, but he is so great. And I think he connects with so many people because he really does care. He is all about constantly, about delivering value to people, changing people's lives, enriching people's lives, touching people's lives. So he is the real deal. And, you know, anybody that hasn't seen that keynote, connect with me on Facebook or go to YouTube. You could search it, you know, Pat Flynn Podcast Movement 2015. It really is a fantastic keynote. He did a great job. And of course, I had the benefit of being in his keynote, which was funny. So I'm not telling you guys to watch it just because I was in there. But it was pretty funny. He doesn't mind poking fun at himself. Like, you know, we should all feel that way, right?
Well, yes, and I did watch that. I saw that beginning part. So we'll leave everybody, you know, make it a teaser for everybody to go check out the Facebook post and see how Darrin was incorporated into the presentation. It was quite humorous. And, you know, I resonated with what you were saying about just do it and you'll get better each time you do it. As a professional speaker, you know, I go out on a stage and I speak to a group and I always get butterflies and people say, how can you do that? And it's like, well, it's one, I love it, just like you love what you're doing in the interviews. And each time I do it, and even when I hear other speakers, I learn from them.
Sure.
So, you know, I'm sure there's things you learn from Pat Flynn. And there are people who are probably on here today because they want a podcast or they are podcasting and they want to learn from you. So I'm going to open up the line. If anybody wants to jump on board and ask a question, Nate or Gilly, I know that you're here. We've got Robert who's here as well. And Sharon, even if you want to get online and ask a question, that would be awesome. Were you going to say something, Darrin?
No, I'm just I'm looking, seeing if anybody, come on.
We've got Nate here. Nate, looks like you're a singer, a songwriter, a musician.
Yeah, he did great with that, Nate.
You have a host of a podcast.
Hello.
So welcome aboard. Hey there, Nate. Nice to meet you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Man.
Awesome.
What's up, buddy?
Great to meet you guys. I just popped into Blab and here you are. And I saw Darrin with his bass. Is that a bass or electric? What is that?
That is a bass. You are correct, my friend. You play. You are a musician.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do
Nice.
podcasts as well for musicians and stuff. And so I'm a big fan of the podcast thing.
Cool. What's your podcast?
I do two different podcasts. One for indie musicians on the business side of things, which would include a lot of social media and marketing. The other one is for Christian artists themselves who have radio play and hits and things like that. I bring them on my show and just interview them about their music. So
Nice. Very interesting. I got to say, you know, I've recently been getting into more Christian music. You know, I'm a rock guy. I like a lot of old school rock and, you know, some new stuff too. But like my church, like we have a Christian church that like the band there is just like, it's amazing. And I haven't played in a couple of years. I haven't played out live, but I've really been like when I walk in there and I know this is going to really sound corny, but like, I mean, every single time I'm moved to tears, like there's not a time that like I could go there and I'm not touched
Emotional.
or like I have goosebumps. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I have to play. Like, I just feel like I'm being called in some way to do that.
that's awesome. Yeah.
How long have you been playing an instrument? Both of you. I'll ask Nate and Darrin. How long have you been playing an instrument?
Cool. That was going to be my question for Darrin too. So Darrin, you go first, man.
You know, as far as playing for me, I never took a lesson. I'm like kind of musically illiterate. I don't know how to read music or anything like that. But I was dating this girl when I was about 15, 16, maybe 17, maybe 14. I don't know. But we were dating and her brother used to play and he played an acoustic. He was an older guy and I was just fascinated by it. It just like really caught me. And I just said to myself, you know, I want to get a guitar and I just want to learn how to play one song. That's all I just want to play one song from beginning to end. So I picked up a guitar and I just started playing and I never put it down. And
Awesome.
yeah, I played like just a couple of years ago. I was in a band where we were playing 3 or 4 nights a week and we were playing, you know, at casinos. The picture actually on my Twitter and Facebook profile is from, we played for NASCAR up by me. So that was a nice,
That would be
that
fun.
was a big show. Yeah, that was a nice big stage and, you know, there were hundreds and hundreds of people there and just a lot of fun. So I love playing, you know, it's just great stuff. Just haven't done it in a while.
Yeah.
Nate, do you play guitar? What instrument do you play, Nate?
I do. I play guitar, piano, and drums. And
Sweet.
And how long have you been podcasting?
Podcasting, less than playing music. Podcasting, seriously podcasting, maybe 2 years, 3 years.
Cool.
And playing music for a lot longer. That was my thing forever. And then I realized, hey, I should just do the blogging test. You know, I got into Pat Flynn as well years ago when he was getting started, and was like, I want to just see if this would work on the music side. I don't want to do a blog about blogging necessarily, but I want to kind of use the same strategies and work on promoting other musicians, which is the heart of one of those podcasts, and then seeing how that indirectly might impact my own musical pursuits. So I've been playing music for over 20 years. I'm in my 30s and started quite young. So kind of a similar story. I started playing guitar because I was so excited and hungry and just didn't stop. So yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you mentioned something. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, when you like pick up a guitar and like when you're just so into it, where like the first thing that you're thinking about doing when you get home from school is picking up that guitar and just playing it.
Yeah.
That's like, I tried to get my kids into music. I have them, taking piano lessons, and they're all like, like, oh, Dad, I don't want to practice. And I'm like,
yeah.
All right, you're not into it. I try to encourage them and push them, but it's like, okay, now I'm beating a dead horse because they're just not interested.
That's right. There's got to be a spark of inspiration somehow that just
absolutely
motivates you. And it's like that with anything in life, right? You got to have this inner game, right? So
it's funny. When I was a kid, I played piano, and like you, Darrin, I played without lessons. I mean, I wasn't a great player, but I could sit down and play. And then my mother got me a piano teacher, and I'm just like your kids. It was like, I don't want to practice. I wanted to play for fun. And I stopped the lessons. And today it's been many, many years since I touched a piano. And the same thing with guitar. I learned when I was a camp counselor, and we all used to play guitar. But I have a question for you, Nate, about your podcast and your music. You were saying you started the podcast because you hoped it was going to help you get out there more as a musician. So has that worked for you, and have you built a community around that? It sounds like perhaps you have.
I have, yeah. It's been pretty amazing. I mean, I've had a lot of stops and starts along the way, and I've made a ton of mistakes, and I feel like I'm only just now starting to really get this idea of you got to get the inner thing right first as an entrepreneur before and you guys might have talked about this before I got on, but it's so important that if your mindset isn't correct and your attitude isn't correct, you're just going to keep repeating a lot of the same mistakes. And that's kind of
so true. That's
kind of been my last 3 years. We had our first kid 3 years ago, and then we just had our second one last year. And so it's been a wild ride of adjusting to all kinds of things, but especially trying to do this podcasting stuff. But anyway, I do have some successes and wins that I'm pretty excited about, but I feel like we're just getting started. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, you know what? You're already a lot farther ahead than most people, I'll tell you, because, getting that inner thing right. I'm 47. I'm going to be 48 this month. And sometimes I still question myself. I do feel like I am on the right path. But that doesn't mean that, some things won't change with that either. But without it being, it has to be that thing inside. If you don't have that down, it's no matter what. It's so true what you said, too. You're going to jump from one thing to another. It's like, oh, that thing didn't work, so I'm going to go on to this thing. When it's really just, it's you. It starts with you.
Yeah.
The mindset's a big piece for all of us. I think that's why we were talking about, being real, and sharing in that aspect of yourself is because I have a saying, you're in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself. And I think when you recognize that, that's where community starts to get built, and you develop those relationships with people that okay, I can relate to that. I can relate to, like we were talking earlier about the struggle, but also to the success, and to help people along and to serve people that way. I think that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for the props.
Yeah, guys, this has been awesome. I love meeting you both. I'm going to follow each of you. I have to jump off now, but I love Blab. I think podcasters should be so excited about this thing because it's incredible.
It really is.
I mean, talk about engagement and the whole tell a bird thing. All that stuff's awesome. So
that's one of the reasons I got on Blab. Thank you, Nate. It was great to have you here.
Thanks, man. Nice meeting you. Real quick, before you jump off, what's the name of your podcast? Let me check them out.
Yeah, Tim Talks. It's sort of a play on TED Talks, but it's an acronym for The Independent Musician. And then the CMB podcast, which is that's another acronym. I'm into acronyms for some reason. Christian music blog podcast. It's been through some changes, but it's all at natefancher.com, and that's in my profile thing here on Blab, so you can see everything there.
Okay, I'm going to type it in here in the comments. natefancher.com.
That's it. Perfect. Yep.
Okay, well, everybody check Nate out. Thanks
guys.
Nate, for hopping on board. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll check you guys out as well. So,
all right, man.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
brother.
Yep.
So, before we wrap up, I wanted to see if we can get Gilly here on board. She's been listening, and we know that she's overseas. So both Sharon and I have been going, Gilly, come on, jump on and get a seat. We'll see if she does that or not. In the meantime, if anyone else wants to hop on board, she said, one moment, let me get on. Oh, she's getting on a different computer. If anyone else has a question or wants to jump on, there's an open seat here. Feel free to do that. And we're probably going to wrap it up here fairly soon. We had some technical glitches early on, but we lost Gilly, but I think she's going to get on another computer. So, Darrin, why don't I ask you about your tagline? Your tagline says, we're all bigwigs in this nation, but some of us just don't know it yet. So how did you come about creating that?
I was really thinking we all have these amazing gifts available to us. And I think some people, they see other people out there doing something that they would love to do. And they think like, wow, this person is so much better than me. I could never do that, or I can never be that good. But the bottom line is, like, we all have such amazing gifts, like, within us, things that we could share with the world, things that sometimes, because of that negative self-talk, because of the doubt, because of the comparisons, we don't do it. And that was like, part of why that tagline, because we are all that. We have all that available to us. And, some of us just haven't figured it out. Hey, Gilly, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Cool.
So just to wrap up what you were saying, Darrin, I think it's true. Everybody has special gifts and special talents and abilities. And sometimes they know about it, but they're afraid to take that step forward. And other times I think when I started my business, I didn't know that I was actually going to start my business. I had always wanted my own business. I never knew what that was going to be. And it was actually because I was out looking for a job and couldn't find one. And people were saying to me, if you were to freelance, we could use your help. And then the light bulb went off. And it was like, okay. And I just jumped in with both feet. So,
nice.
Hi, Gilly. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi, it's fine. How you doing?
I am doing fine. What time is it over there?
It's 1932.
Okay, so that's
all right. That was a good year.
7:30 in the evening.
Yeah, I've come back to work so I could listen and, if necessary, integrate on the Mac, because it's better than the laptop at home because the microphone doesn't work on that one. When you had problems today, you really have my sympathy with that. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you for hanging in there with us. It's nothing like getting on your computer and thinking, hey, I've done this before. It works just fine. And then no sound, or I can hear you, you can't hear me. And so I appreciate your patience.
Here, I've got computers everywhere. But yeah, I do work quite a lot online as well as running my shop, and the farm. But it wasn't until late in life that I found something else, which I didn't even know it existed at the time. And I've just carried on learning from there and improving and growing. So we're never too old. And Darrin, you're such a baby. I've got 10 years on you,
I've got a lot of years on both of you. I hate to tell you.
Hey, you're only as young as you feel, right? That's what it's all about.
I'm only 18. Wow.
There you go. Hey, it's
Hey,
all good,
Darrin,
man. It's all good.
I'm looking at the comments and we have a question from somebody. It's from Robert San Luis. He's saying, what is the optimal number of podcast episodes to produce per month?
Good question, Robert. I think personally, you don't want to do, and it's funny. It's great. We're always so good at giving people advice that we don't follow ourselves, right? But I think ideally you don't want to do less than 2 a week.
A week?
I think a week. You want to do at least 2 a week. And sometimes some of the clients that I work with and people I consult with, I'll always advise 2 and maybe even 3 if you could. So let's say that it's an interview show. You want to have an interview show where you're talking to people. You do 1 interview episode, and then maybe towards the end of the week, maybe you do just a solo episode where you're talking about a subject that you know really well, that you're passionate about, that you are an expert about. And so this way, what happens with that is you're constantly getting within iTunes, and these, iTunes, as far as the rankings change constantly. They're always changing. So you want to kind of always have fresh content in there. The idea of a daily podcast, I mean, it's so difficult to maintain and do that. To me, it's just kind of crazy. And I also think a little part of that is with your audience, people are not, unless they're extremely engaged, are they going to really listen to a podcast every single day? You're going to overwhelm them with content, I think, sometimes. So I think 3 is a great place to be, and 2 is good. I think definitely more than 1 a week, though, for sure.
That's interesting because, just doing my Blab, I do it once a week, and I feel like that takes a lot of time. So it's interesting to hear you say.
Up, man. So true. A lot of people out there, they see this stuff and they think it's easy, like with podcasting, for example. You don't see the stuff that goes on, like with what I do. You don't see some of these people that I've got on the show. It's I got these great people, Gary Vaynerchuk and Jack Canfield and all these folks. Some of these people have taken me months to get, 5-6 months.
I believe it.
At least one of them. So all of those things that are going on behind the scenes, they just see this nice polished product. And I talked about that earlier, Deb, where people just kind of look at the finished product and they think wow, this is cool. And this is, easy. And I'd like to be like that or whatever. But the bottom line is you don't see all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to put that product out there. So it's difficult sometimes. It really is. Definitely a challenge.
How you find that you find out more about a person that you've known for a long time than they've ever really let on in public before?
Well, that's, I was talking before about that conversation I had with Clayton Morris yesterday. And that was just a really great and deep conversation. And I really enjoyed that conversation because I learned who he really was, not the persona. I learned, about his fears. Here's a guy that's talking in front of 2 million plus people, every week. And you automatically see a guy like that who's extremely polished. He's had conversations with, the president, with dignitaries, with all these major celebrities, Donald Trump several times. And you think this guy's just got his shit together. He's got it all together. It's, easy for him. When you see someone like that comes out and that opens up and talks about his insecurities, that talks about his fears, I think there's so much value in that because people just see that, they see the finished product. Like I said, they don't see, that he is a normal human being like everybody else who has fears and insecurities like we all do. So there's such power in that, I think. I really do.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree. I think you just said it, it just makes people go, oh, this person is human.
Exactly.
They do have a side that we don't often see and they're willing to show it, which I think draws people to you more. I think people then connect more that way and go, oh, hey, If
I could
Darrin has
relate.
people like that, then I want to listen to the next podcast. I want to see what the next person has to say.
Very engaging. Yeah, very good. I love
Yes.
going back, and if there's one I've really enjoyed, and I've had to stop it because I've had to see to something else, then I go back and I listen again, and then you think, did I miss something? So you go back and you start again. And I've listened to 2 or 3 of Darrin's podcasts over and over again because I found something in there that was really, I don't know, it just resonated with me sometimes. And you think, have I missed something? I better go back and have another listen. So you do, you go back and have another listen. And you think, oh yeah, I missed that bit. You know, but yeah, it's a great way of going back and listening to things again.
Yeah, it's just like picking up a book. You know, you read a good book, you read a great book. I mean,
Over and over.
exactly. You pick it up, and you're always going to find something new, something different, something that speaks to you. Maybe you're in a different place in your life. You know, even from a journaling perspective. You're very welcome, Robert. Even from a journaling perspective, I mean, there's such value in journaling. I don't know any of you guys, you know, if a lot of you guys here do. When you are in that bad place, that ugly place sometimes, and you're sitting and you actually, you know, pick up the pen and you pick up the pad and you start writing, you start, you know, just pouring yourself out. When you're in a different place and you go back, there is so much value in that. I mean, it could just be, you know, it massively help you in so many ways. Just like when you're in a good place and then you're in a bad place and you're comparing. So much value in journaling. I really do.
That's life. We all have ups and downs. But I do have one complaint about Debra's book.
About my book?
I read it in paper.
What about it?
Yeah, I can't get it in paper.
It is in paper.
Not in
You can get.
Not in England. It's only available on Kindle.
Oh, well, we'll see what we can do about that. We'll get that to you.
There you
But
go.
yes, it's very definitely on paper. You can get it at millionairemarketingonashoestringbudget.com.
Tried.
Won't do. And you can, we'll get it to you, Julie. For those of you who are listening, we're going to wrap up shortly because we've been here a bit longer because we had some technical glitches. If you have a question, you can jump on board. You could also, if you're in the comment section, if you do a / and a Q before you type in your question, then it will highlight in the comments section. So I'll see it much more readily if you have that question.
I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you.
All right, Julie. Nice
Thank
seeing
you, Julie, for being here. It was great to see you.
Take care now.
That's one of the great things I love about these blabs is we get to connect with people and see them face to face that we've been chatting with or, you know, connected to on Facebook. And I think we mentioned it earlier about that connection and engagement. Engagement's a really big word that comes up a lot in social networking, on Blab, on probably podcasts. My question for you, let's see, we have a guest. So let me bring the guest on. This is Michael Haynes. Hi, Michael. Let's see if he...
How are you?
We're
Hey,
good.
Michael.
How are you, Michael?
I'm incredible.
Well, that's
Nice
awesome.
to
Did
see
you have a question?
I do. Are you a copywriter?
I am a copywriter.
Hey, you're just the lady I wanted to talk to. I'm in the middle of redoing my webpage. Can you pull up my profile on Blab?
Michael, I can do that, but not here on this Blab, because right now today's Blab features my guest, Darrin, who's a podcaster. So if you want to contact me, you can send me an email, and then I can do that for you. My email is Debra at rightdirection.com. Actually, I'll put that email in the comments section for you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, Michael. Thanks for stopping by.
Have a great day.
You too.
Have a good one, buddy. Have a good one, man.
Bye now.
Thanks, Michael. So Darrin, why don't we wrap it up? But before we do, why don't you let people know how they can find you?
They could find me at, well, Facebook. I am active on Facebook, probably sometimes a little bit more than I should be, but recently I haven't been because I haven't really been feeling so great lately. But connect with me on Facebook. I am Darrin Bentley on Facebook because somebody took Darrin Bentley, so I had to be I am Darrin Bentley.
Darrin Bentley, okay.
And at Bigwig Nation, bigwignation.com, and jump on my mailing list. I don't really send out a lot of emails, so I do try to, when I email the people who jump on my newsletter, I try to give them something of value. So connect with me on bigwignation.com, and yeah, if anybody is listening who is interested in podcasting, wants to learn more about podcasting, feel free to shoot me a message. I love talking about the stuff. It's I'm really passionate about it. So great stuff.
Well, I want to thank you. And for those of you who haven't listened to Darrin's podcast, it is awesome. It's Bigwig Nation, and it's at bigwignation.com. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to share your wisdom and your vulnerability, and to be engaged with my peeps here, and your patience with the technological glitches. For those of you who want to jump on board next week, my guest is going to be Felicia Slattery, who wrote Kill the Elevator Speech. And she's a speaker as I am, so tune in on Friday. And in the meantime, I want to wish you all a heartwarming and wonderful day. Have a fabulous weekend. And thanks again, Darrin, for being here. It was a pleasure to have you, and give Sharon a big hug for me.
I will, and thank you again for having me, and I will catch up with you online.
Online, you will. Thanks.
All right.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye.